morning, everyone, and welcome to another live edition. Look, the holiday edition of the Turkey Day edition of Wealth Building Wednesday, being brought to you by TRHT Selma. TRHT Selma, Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation, is an initiative brought to you by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. We are delighted that the community partners for TRHT Selma are the Selma Center for Nonviolence and the Black Belt Community Foundation. We are super excited about all of the things that we've been able to accomplish and all of the great information that we've been able to share over the past year or so. As we had to pivot away from in-person events, we stuck to virtual. We wanted to continue to share the information, and we're excited about the audience that we have built, and we're excited about the relationships that we have nurtured. And one of those relationships is with our guest this morning, Miss Sandy Hesley, who is a certified credit counselor with Lifelines Counseling. They are a comprehensive counseling service based in Mobile, but serving the entire state of Alabama and the Florida Panhandle. We are excited to welcome you again this morning, Miss Hesley. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm excited to be here as always.
Yes. So now listen, this is a hot topic. Last time we talked about it. Listeners, viewers, please take a moment right now to tag and share. We're going to talk about a B word, and that word is a lot longer than what some of you all might have thought. It is bankruptcies, okay? We're not going to talk about budget again. Not today, because we modified our language, right? Language matters. It's a spending plan, not a budget. We don't want to talk about dieting. We want to talk about an eating plan, okay? So we're going to have spending plans and eating plans as we venture off into the year 2022. So bankruptcies is another B word that is very relevant to finance. Ms. Hesley, before we went live, I was sharing with you that until our last time together, when we started to talk about bankruptcies, I never really knew that so many people were interested or needed information about bankruptcy. So it actually is quite common.
Very much so. A lot
So
more
now,
people are affected by it than you would realize.
So now there is, and you talked about initially, the last time we were together, you talked about how people look at it and can be ashamed of filing for bankruptcy. But share with us why people shouldn't be ashamed and what bankruptcy actually is.
Well, bankruptcy is just it's a legal process that people or even businesses or entities, go through who can't repay their debts. So they seek some kind of help, some kind of relief for those debts. And bankruptcy is an order that is imposed, by a court order. And, usually it's initiated by the debtor, and it's a way for debtors to regroup, reorganize, and get themselves together so that they can repay those debts.
I
And you
love
shouldn't
the
be ashamed because, with anything else, if you need help, you're having health issues. What do? You go to a doctor, you seek help. You're having financial problems, you would come see us, and then sometimes it warrants you taking a step further and seeking legal help.
I am loving the fact that you use two words that are not shameful at all. And we all have an opportunity to do them, whether it is with our finances, our personal lives, our medical situations, and that is to regroup and
Yeah.
reorganize.
Yeah.
Listen, we can do that for the new year. We can regroup and reorganize. And so those are two terms that we can definitely use in our conversations with folks as we talk about this thing called bankruptcy. So I'm excited that you use those terms to help us alleviate the stress or the weight
Mm-hmm.
um, and the shame of the idea of having to file for bankruptcy. So now, what are some common reasons that you find people wanting or needing to file for bankruptcy?
Ano- the main reason is medical debt.
Okay.
You would be
Wow.
surprised. I did some research, And it says research shows that 66.5% of all bankruptcies are tied to medical issues. So, an estimated 530,000 families turn to bankruptcy each year because of medical bills. So, medical debt is the main reason because when you think about it, and you think that, oh, this is for people that don't have insurance. That's not the case. A lot of people do have medical insurance, but yourself is only so much that medical insurance covers.
Right.
So it
Mm-hmm.
forces people, and then when you get somebody that has a serious medical issue, it forces people to take this option, to protect themselves. It could be unemployment. People can just become overwhelmed with credit card debt because it got out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
And even divorce. Sometimes, people get divorced. You had
Mm-hmm.
that second income or two household income. Now
Mm-hmm.
you no longer have that. So, those are reasons, why people have to turn to bankruptcy. But the main reason is top reason is medical debt.
Wow, I had no idea, but you are absolutely right when you talk about like surgeries and things like that and the cost of like the
Medication.
anesthesiologist and yes, the
Mhm.
medication and the follow-up. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Wow. So now we're talking about costs here, right? And you said that
Mhm.
medical costs tend to be the most common reason that we see people filing for personal bankruptcy. So how much does it cost to file? Like, is there a cost to file for bankruptcy? And do I have to have an attorney to do that? Is that something I can do myself?
I've read that there are that you can file is forms that you can go on the internet and get, or you
Hmm.
can fill out the forms yourself and submit them to the court yourself.
Hmm.
That's something that I would not recommend, because when
Okay.
you get something as tricky as this, because it can
Hmm.
get tricky, me personally, I would rather pay the attorney to handle it and know that everything is covered.
Okay.
Now, it can be expensive, and the cost can be anywhere between 1,500 and 4,000, but you can turn around and have that cost included in the bankruptcy itself. You understand what I'm saying? Or it's
Okay.
being paid through the bankruptcy. So they have changed it, because at one point you had to pay like so much to the attorney up front, and then his fee could be paid through the courts, each month. But
Hmm.
now, I guess because so many people, and I'm assuming because so many people are having to file, and because you're filing bankruptcy because you don't have any money. So how
Right.
you gonna ask me to cough up this lump sum of money when I don't have any? And so now they're having to worry, in some places, in some situations, you don't have to pay it up front, but it can be included in the filing.
So your recommendation is, and I just want to make sure because folks are taking notes, um, that we make sure that we seek legal advice before filing for bankruptcy.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay. Because it's sometimes when we are surfing the internet and wanting to learn more about things, it's important to know that you have to have the people, the interaction, the professionals, and
Yeah.
not necessarily depend on apps like I'm not sure if places like LegalZoom offer those documents, but it's gonna and even though they have attorneys behind the scenes, it's always, per your advice, great to seek legal counsel when filing for bankruptcy. And I can think of a lot of reasons why, because everybody's situation is different. And like you said, if that thing
Exactly.
gets tricky, look,
Exactly. And you don't want to leave any stone unturned, or I forgot to file this, or I forgot to include this in the filing. And then the next thing you know, it turns around and comes back to bite you. So, me
oh,
personally, I would rather pay a professional who went to school all those years for that. I'd rather pay them to handle it.
awesome. So now, when it comes to the challenges, because a part of what we may think about when we talk about folks perhaps being shameful of having to file for bankruptcy, which we just want to remind folks, if you're just now tuning in, Bankruptcy is nothing to be ashamed of. It is an opportunity for you to regroup and reorganize when it comes to your finances. But the challenges that we've heard of people facing could contribute to why some folks may think that, this is something that is shameful. So, what are some of the challenges that people face when filing for personal bankruptcy?
I mean, the process itself can be challenging. It can be it's time consuming. It is stressful. In the beginning, the whole process is just is stressful. People find that part challenging. It gets challenging because it could affect your getting a job, especially when you look at the level that you're trying to get. Let's say you're trying to get in some type of managerial type job, because employers now pull your credit. It can be a challenge trying to get a job. It can be a challenge trying to find somewhere to stay, because landlords pull your credit, to when you apply for housing. So those are, just some of the challenges that people face. But I think that in the long run, once you get over that hurdle, that initial part of it, it gets better. It gets easier. But those are the main things that I found that are, challenging, with the process and with filing bankruptcy.
So when you mentioned that the level of stress that folks can be under when it comes to filing for bankruptcy, are there any things that you've seen people do to kind of help relieve themselves of stress, or anything that you do to help keep you mentally well during stressful moments?
Well, just try and make them see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that this
Okay.
is only for a moment. Encourage them to gather all the necessary documents up front. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Do your
Mhm.
research to know what it is you're getting into, so that you will know what to expect. Purchasing a home can be stressful, but the
Mhm.
outcome of it, in the end, you're like, oh, this was, what? It was all worth it. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So just trying to encourage people to just stay the course, gather the documentation that is requested, and it's just a waiting game. You just got to ride it out.
So now when it comes to the good things, right? Because you said that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Hmm.
What are some of the positive things that can happen, or the good things that can happen as a result of someone filing for bankruptcy?
I mean, a lot of times, the first thing that comes to mind, or that people speak of, is
Mhm.
peace of mind. Because prior to filing, you got people calling. You know what I'm saying? You getting the phone calls from the creditors. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? The threats of repossessing your car, or threats of foreclosing on your home, or things of that nature. So a lot of times it's just the idea of getting peace of mind, knowing that all of that stuff has to stop once you file. Once you file, the phone calls, collections, all of that has to stop. And then
Okay.
also with filing, and some people think, well, how could, filing bankruptcy, any good come out of that? Again, because you have a plan. You are putting forth the effort to reorganize. You are making those payments now, whereas you couldn't pay them before. In bankruptcy, they're going to come up with a plan that is more suited to you, that is more manageable. So now you can, have peace of mind knowing that, what, I wasn't able to pay them before, but now I'm able to make my payment. And then instead of you sending payments to all these different people, you're sending one payment to that trustee in the bankruptcy court, and then he's dispersing your funds out to the different creditors. So, for a lot, that's a good thing.
Mhm. So now I'm so grateful for you in this moment describing what the behind the scenes of bankruptcy looks like. So, because we talked about the three different kinds of bankruptcy the last time we were together, which is the chapter 7, the chapter 11, and the chapter 13. Now,
Correct.
chapter 7 bankruptcy is the
It wipes them out. You
okay,
know, they completely wipe your debt out. Chapter 13 is a reorganization
okay.
where you pay back. They just reorganize your debt where it's more manageable for you to pay. And then of course chapter 11 is geared towards businesses, and all that does is give them an opportunity to regroup as well and stay afloat and be able to continue to operate while everything is being reorganized.
Now, see, that's the chapter 11, I think, is probably the most common for those of us who have heard of this term before, bankruptcy, and seen it on the news. We oftentimes see people filing for business level bankruptcy, which is the
Mm-hmm.
chapter 11, and continuing to operate. So, just
Mm-hmm.
to be clear, that this is very similar to personal bankruptcy in that it gives you the opportunity as a company to
Yes.
regroup and reorganize. So
Mm-hmm.
that's great information, and good for us to know, y'all. The more we know, the better off we can be. We can plan our finances. Spending plans are important so that we are not facing things like bankruptcy. But again, like Ms. Hesley mentioned, a lot of the reasons why people face bankruptcy are not connected to not having a spending plan.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody plans to be sick and accumulate a whole lot of debt related to our health and health care,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So even when
Mm-hmm.
you have a spending plan, bankruptcy may still be a reality that has to be faced. So what we wanted to do with this episode of Wealth Building Wednesday is just equip people with
Mm-hmm.
the information, asking and answering some very critical, basic questions about bankruptcy, and of course, making sure that folks just know how to access the proper assistance when the time comes. So now, how long does a bankruptcy stay on our credit? Like we hear about stuff staying 2 years, 5 years, 7 years. How long does a bankruptcy end up on our credit report?
It usually stays on there anywhere from 7 to 10, and they threw the 10 in there because usually when you file chapter 7, which
Mm-hmm.
is the one where you wipe everything out, if I'm not mistaken, that one stays on a little longer. But typically 7 years. And a lot of times the 2 years comes up because a lot of creditors, mainly, especially when it comes to home purchasing, want to see at least 2 years of rebuilding before they look at lending you, any money. So that's where the 2 years comes in. A lot of creditors like to see at least 2 years of rebuilding before they extend like a mortgage to you.
Okay. And now that's really good to know, because one of our next questions is around purchasing a home and whether people who have filed for bankruptcy are able to do that. So now I do quickly, though, just want to address the impact of filing for personal bankruptcy on our credit in general. You said that it can stay from anywhere from 7 to 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it may be like the 2 years of reorganizing and
Mm-hmm.
regrouping that lenders, especially in the mortgage market, want to see that you are able to pay back, and prove yourself to be a worthy um person that they can to whom they can extend credit. But like, what is the impact of filing for personal bankruptcy on our credit?
I mean, it impacts it,
Hmm.
for sure. Don't think that it doesn't.
Okay.
But if you're being honest about it, a lot of people, by the time they file bankruptcy, their credit is already jacked. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, by the time they file, they've already missed several payments. Some items may already be in collections. You understand what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
by the time they do file, their credit is already, falling, pretty low. So when you file, yeah, your credit is going to take a hit. But as you make payments to these creditors, regularly on time, and then after your discharge, you'll see your score go, start to trickle up. But
Okay.
the biggest thing of it is when you do get out, that is when the real rebuilding starts, and that is when you would look at maybe getting like a secure credit card so that you can gradually try and rebuild your credit. And there are some credit card companies that will extend credit to you because they know that you're out of bankruptcy. They offer a ridiculous interest rate. And some of them will even offer like you have to pay an annual fee for them and all of that. Me, I would stay away from them. I
Okay.
would, stick with the secured credit card. And make a charge next month, pay it off, make a charge, pay it off, and just gradually rebuild your credit that way. But yeah, your credit takes a hit, but by the time you get to that point of filing, it's already taken a hit. And because why would you be filing if you weren't having trouble anyway?
Okay. Okay. So now that's very good to know, and for us to be able to be mindful of these things and how we're spending, planning ahead, even having savings, y'all having additional insurance coverages, because even like the more you're describing the need for folks to file bankruptcy, I'm thinking about like the supplemental insurances that we can get. I know one is very famous. It now features Coach Nick Saban and Coach Deion
That's
Sanders.
right.
Yeah, and the famous duck. But with dealing with health, that is a supplemental plan that can help us not face certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a famous brand, but it actually does, like those type of policies can certainly help. There
Mm-hmm.
are even cancer riders
Yeah,
on insurances that can help if folks face a cancer diagnosis. And like you said, the cost of medication,
it's ridiculous.
whew, it is. And you would really think that we would be in a much different place as the most wealthy country, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the face of the earth, you
Yeah.
would think that we would not have people who are hungry and not have people who can't afford medical procedures and medical services and medications. But, you know, we do face that in America,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a part of why Wealth Building Wednesday exists. We want to help
Yeah.
people plan ahead, share the facts, so that we can put ourselves individually and collectively in a better space.
Mm-hmm.
So now, can people, if we want to go back to the home ownership, because we know that home ownership, the owning of land, is one of the most secure ways to establish wealth in any country. But
Mm-hmm.
when we look at how wealth has been established in America, it is real estate.
Yeah.
All of the billionaires, and I wanted y'all hear this, right? All of the billionaires that we read about, every single one of them, from Warren Buffett, we talk about Elon Musk, all of these folks have investments in real estate. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to purchasing, say, becoming a homeowner, and perhaps we have experienced bankruptcy or we're in the midst of bankruptcy, can we purchase homes?
If you're in bankruptcy,
Hmm.
any purchase that you have to make has to go through the courts.
Okay.
Now, saying that, I don't know if, let's say the judge gives you permission to purchase a home through bankruptcy.
Hmm.
It still is contingent upon a lender agreeing to lend you money while you're in bankruptcy. So, can it be done with the court's approval? Yes, but it's still contingent upon whether or not a lender wants to take that risk while you're in bankruptcy. And I only know of one individual, and this was some years ago, that purchased a car through bankruptcy. And the only reason why she was able to do it is because she had an accident in the car that she had. So a car was a must. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So they approved for her to get a car through bankruptcy. And the lender, she had a nice down payment, and the lender agreed to let her finance it and it go through bankruptcy. But it's all contingent upon the courts approving the purchase and whether or not a lender is wanting to take that risk.
So now, quick question, because when you describe the payment process in a bankruptcy, if someone purchases something like a house or a car, or really any credit is extended to them, so do those debts then go to that trustee that you described earlier related to bankruptcy, or is the individual responsible for paying that and it's reported to the courts? How does that work?
It all goes through the trustee. It goes through the
Oh,
court.
wow. Okay.
You'll find will be assigned a trustee. Everything goes through the courts. You send your payments to the courts, to the trustee, and the trustee makes sure that each creditor is paid,
Okay.
through the courts. So everything has to go through the courts at that point,
Okay.
once you file bankruptcy.
Okay. So now, I know it's almost time for us to get out of here, and and for some of us that means getting into the kitchen. But how can we best work to avoid the need for filing bankruptcy?
The best way is to operate or live within your means.
Mhm.
Pay your bills on time. And if you see where you're having difficulties financially,
Mhm.
immediately seek assistance. That would be coming to consumer credit counseling,
Okay.
seeing how we can, because we have a debt management program, seeing how we can help you. And for me, really, those are the three main reasons. I mean, three main things you need to do: pay your bills on time,
Okay.
pay them on time and as agreed, live within your means. And if you foresee a problem, seek help then. Don't let it get out of hand. And then you seek help. But by then, it's taking on a life of its own, and you're really kind of too far gone, and you have to seek that legal option. With some things, it's inevitable. Like we said, medical. If you're looking at somebody that has, God forbid, cancer, a horrible, disease, and they're needing treatments, they're needing medication. I mean, what else are they to do?
Right.
You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And in a situation like that, it's not too much that you can do but that. But with the other stuff, especially with, credit card debt, seek help. You're unemployed, you lose your job, call the credit card companies. A lot of times they'll work with you knowing that you don't have a job. They'll work
Mhm.
with you. So, seek help on the onset, and, it won't, be as bad as you think that it will be.
Okay. So now, can anyone, and we'll go ahead and start to wrap up, can anyone file for bankruptcy?
If what you have to do is, and this is where it's kind of really over my, I say pay grade for lack of a better word, but it depends. Yeah, anybody can, but whether or not you're allowed to, that's another question, because you
Okay.
have to. They have to do what they call a means test, which
Okay.
determines whether or not you qualify for it, and then it determines whether or not you qualify for Chapter 7 or Chapter 13. So
Ah,
it's a process that you have to go through. And again, that's why it's always best to seek professional help. You go to an attorney and they'll do a means test looking at your income and things of that nature to determine whether or not you are able to file. Anybody can, go in and say, hey, I want to file bankruptcy, but will you be able to is contingent upon you going through, answering certain questions. And the main thing is the means test.
okay. Well, I tell you what, you have shared a wealth of information with us today. We are excited to know that you are part of the team helping to build wealth across the state of Alabama. Listen, y'all, if you need credit counseling, Lifelines Counseling is the place to talk to. Miss Hesley is an expert. She is a certified credit counselor. So if you are trying to establish credit, if you want to clean up your credit, and guess what? She's free. That is important for folks to know because I know
Mhm.
that there are services, and we talked about that before, where people charge, for cleaning up credit or what have you. But her services are free, right?
Mhm.
And that's important. That's important for us to know because not everyone can afford a monthly fee for repairing credit. And then credit counseling not only helps you clean up that credit, but it also helps you maintain that credit, right? Because they're going
Exactly.
to counsel you and give you the steps to take going forward. Okay.
Hmm.
So we want to thank you again, Ms. Hesley, for joining us for another edition of Wealth Building Wednesday.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. And we want to wish everyone, each and every one of you all, a very, very happy and safe Thanksgiving holiday. Y'all, all of us, if you have taken the time out to listen, if you have just 2 seconds and you got your foot on the ground headed into a store right now as you're listening, all of us have something to be grateful for. So take
Yeah.
some time out, take a deep breath, and thank, thank, thank whoever it is that you thank. I know I thank the Lord for
Yes.
another opportunity to breathe, to live, to do, and to serve. So we want to thank every last one of you all for tuning in today. And don't you miss our very next edition of Wealth Building Wednesday. We broadcast every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on the Selma Center for Nonviolence and the Black Belt Community Foundation Facebook pages. We also broadcast, the audio is rebroadcast on our media partner WBFZ 105.3 at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you again, Miss Hesley.
Thank
Have a
you.
happy turkey day.